This unit on the Northern Renaissance, of course, follows last week's on the Italian Renaissance, where it started. So let's head back south for a minute to flesh out some of the differences, some of the things that distinguished how the form the Renaissance took in Italy from the form it took up north. So one of the things that was covered in the last video was the substantial support from monarchs, the amount of money that came out of the heads of state coffers to finance art and sculpture and literature and so forth in the north, particularly England and France. That was really different from in Italy, where it was all done at the city-state level. Another is that Italy was largely focused on what's called classical learning, on the philosophy of ancient Greece and Rome, their literature, their thinking, because that's what surrounded them. We talked about that last week. If you were in Italy, you didn't have to go far to see the remnants of that previous civilization. But if you're up north, you don't have that. The Romans had conquered much of the world, much of the known world at that point, of course, but that doesn't mean that you quite had the visible reminders. And if you lived in Germany or Sweden or England, and the Romans had conquered England at one point, but it wasn't there in the same way that if you lived near Rome. So Christian, it's much more Christian in the north. Ideologically, philosophically, it's much more Christian in nature and tone, overtly religious. Another one was that the Northern Renaissance was focused more on everyday life than the Italian Renaissance was. One of the artists who we will take a look at coming up is Peter Bruegel the Elder, and he was famous for his colorful scenes of peasant life. Okay, so those are some of the differences. Now, it seems worthwhile to say a word or two about why the Italian Renaissance ended. We're covering why it began up north, why it spread, but why did it end anyway? So there are a couple factors that explain this. One was that Italy by this point was besieged by constant warfare. England and Spain, in particular, France as well, these countries tried to invade what was to them kind of a big kahuna, like a really desirable target of this rich peninsula. They try to take Italy over. That's what they want to do. They want to conquer and seize its wealth for its own. Another is what happened in 1545, which was the start of the Inquisition. So after you already have many northern Italian artists in particular fleeing the fighting up to the north, which deprives Italy of these artists, but shares that culture, shares that knowledge and that artistic insight with the broader culture of Northern Europe. So after you have that, in 1545, you have the start of the Roman Inquisition. It may sound familiar to you. We had covered the Spanish Inquisition, in which the innovative use of torture devices were done against anyone deemed to not be in accordance with official church teaching. So anyone who was thought to be an atheist, a deist, a heretic, a blasphemer, Jewish, Muslim, etc., was a target. So this ideology, humanism, which had fueled so much of the artistic growth and the intellectual curiosity and inquiry of the Italian Renaissance, is now a target by the church who wants to clamp down on everything. And that really is kind of a kiss of death for the Renaissance in Italy.